I'm just going to quickly list out what should be your approach when it comes to fill in the blanks, right? One is pay attention to surrounding words in the context. When I say surrounding words, focus on words closer to the blank. Why am I doing this? Because it will help me with a concept of grouping of words. What is grouping of words? Collocations. This word goes with this word. Why? Because I've heard people use it repeatedly in various contexts. Okay, so that's one of the approaches that you can employ. Again, look for clue words or keywords in the context. Right? There will be some clue words or keywords in the context that will help me. Third one, see if the context is giving you a positive or a negative meaning. Right? Based on that also, you can choose the right answer option. Right? Is it giving me a positive or a negative meaning? The context. Right? And always I need to remember that I need to pick the most closest in meaning, not just any word. Okay, so having said that, now let's look at the context. Owners of private hostels located in residential areas are not only dash taxes, but are also functioning whimsically in the dash of any regulatory body. Now, this context, there is a clue word. Can someone identify? Most of you have come back and said it's option 4. There is a clue word in the context, which is telling me that this context is giving me a negative meaning. What is that word? Whimsically. What is the meaning of this word? Whimsically means what? Whim. I don't know how many of you have heard of this word. Right? Whim means an impulse. Right? You don't apply reason or you don't look at necessity. Something that is odd, unusual, or peculiar, or not right. Something that is not adhering to certain norms, conforming to what's the right thing to do. Right? When you act out of whim, you're being impulsive. So having said that, if I look at the options, I can quickly eliminate certain options. What can I eliminate? I can eliminate option 2. Right? Owners of private hospitals located in residential areas are not only paying taxes but are also functioning whimsically in the presence of any regulatory body. Does not make sense. Now we can also apply grouping of words. Right? Do you say destroying taxes or do you say checking taxes? What's the word that normally goes with taxes? You either pay or you avoid or you evade. Right? So keeping in mind grouping of words, I know checking taxes and destroying taxes does not make sense. Even if I'm confused with that, look at the second blank. Dearth of any regulatory body, life of any regulatory body, illogical. I can safely eliminate option 3 and 5. Is it going to be 1 or 4? Okay. I can say, yeah, you can avoid tax. That's avoiding goes with taxes, man. Yeah, but what about this word front? What is this word front? In the front, why would they avoid taxes but are also functioning whimsically? Keep in mind your clue word. In the front of any regulatory body does not make sense, right? So the closest option for me, completing the meaning in the given context is evading taxes. Yeah, that's a collocation. Grouping of words. Evading taxes. Owners of private hostels located in residential areas are not only evading, which is nothing but evading taxes, but are also functioning whimsically in the absence. So there's no one to check on them. What is the function of a regulatory body? To make sure you pay your taxes, right? But in the absence of them, they are acting weird, unusual, odd, not conforming to certain rules, right? So what have we done here? Basically, we've looked at the context, we've identified a clue word, Let's say you don't know the meaning of this word, whimsical. It's a new word. Chalo, forget it. Look at the apply grouping of words. Look at the words next to the blank, right? And understand what the meaning, the context is giving. Then you go back, look at your options and eliminate options and arrive at a logical option which completes the meaning of the context. So remember these three, right? We will look at other strategies as well, but ideally this should be your approach for fill in the blanks. Contractors across the state have dashed to stop work on the scheme after the minister failed to give them concrete dash of timely payment. Okay? So again, I want you to pay attention to keywords. What meaning is the context giving? Is it giving a positive meaning or negative meaning? Identify keywords in the context. They are stopping work. Is that a positive thing or a negative thing? Failed. Minister is failing to do something. Minister is failing to carry out some action. So these people, the contractors, are deciding to stop work. So obviously it's giving me a negative meaning, right? The context is giving me a negative meaning. I have identified some words in the context which is supporting that. Now, what can I look at the context and then let's see what can I eliminate. Also, I can continue to apply grouping of words, right? Keep in mind the prepositions to and of. So let's go option by option. Let's look at option 1. Contractors across the state have thought to stop work. Grammatically doesn't sound right, but even if you think, okay, it's fine, look at the next word. On the scheme, after the minister failed to give them concrete proof or proof. So it's not the right. So also pay attention to the words before the blank also, right? Concrete is an adjective describing something. So this blank, what do I need? I need a noun form, right? A little bit of word class. So some basic grammar constructions you need to keep in mind, right? I need a noun form. This is not in the noun form. It's in the verb form. Out. Let's look at option 2. Contractors across the state have decided to stop work while on the scheme after the minister failed to give them concrete assurance of timely payment. So something is not promised to them. Seems like the right fit. We'll keep that in the parking lot. Let's move to option 3. Contractors across the state have wished to stop work. So when something is not happening, there is no point of wishing. There is no wish happening there. You either do it or you don't do it. So the first blank is not logically the right fit. Again, second blank also is not the logical right fit. Demand of timely payment. No. They need to grant it. They need to give some sort of, provide some sort of evidence. So demand again is not, no. Who is demanding? The minister failing to give them concrete demand of timely payment? Doesn't make sense, right? Contractors across, option 4. Contractors across the state have started to stop work. It's contradictory, right? You can't start to stop work. So you can safely eliminate. Last one. Contractors across the state have determined to stop work on the scheme after the minister failed to give them concrete promise. Not the right word again, right? Okay, contextually, it's not the right fit. Now, I need to look at what do I have people using normally, right? Do you say concrete assurance or do you say concrete promise? That's one thing, right? Do you also say assurance of timely payment or promise of timely payment? Right? So this is where you apply grouping of words and decide which is the more closest in option, which is the right meaningful fit to the context. Yes, Justin, correct. Concrete assurance, right? So have decided to stop work on the scheme after the minister failed to give them concrete assurance. So what have we done here? Again, same approach. What is the approach? I focus on words before and after the blank. I focus on if there is any keywords. I look at the context. I try and figure out if it's giving me a positive or a negative meaning. And then I eliminate wrong answer options and I arrive at the right answer options. Every third person visiting a doctor happens to dash from a clinical or psychological disorder, dash with temblers. Grouping of words. Right, I have from, I have with. Okay, this is another word. Maybe you don't know this word. It's a new word. You've never heard of this word. It's okay. Don't let that stop you from analyzing the question. It's some sort of a disorder, right? Actually, temblers means vibration or shaking. Okay, now go back. Every third person visiting a doctor happens to ail from her, happens to sick from her, happens to suffer from her. So when you read it, something sounds right. So far, only option 3 has sounded right, at least for the first blank. Again, I'm just looking at the first 3 options. Clinical or psychological disorder regarding with temblers, related with temblers, associated with temblers. So far, again, option 3 sounds right. Right? Normally, related, what is the preposition that goes with it? Related to. Same thing. You say with respect to, right? Option 4. Now, option 5 again, you don't say experience from. I mean, you do say, but in this context, happens to experience from a clinical. You can say happens to experience a clinical. You don't need this from for the 5th option, experience. Connected, yes, it goes with. But the first blank does not go. So Anusha also said 3. Okay, great. So 3 is the right option. Why? We've just applied grouping of words. Collocation. And it also makes logical sense, right? Every third person visiting a doctor happens to suffer from a clinical or psychological disorder. Your clue is some sort of a disorder. You're suffering from it. And what is a disorder associated with? Temblers. Yeah? Suffer from, associated with. So in this context, it's purely just grouping of words. Dash makes the actress trip to the country different this year is that she is dash to raise funds for the biopic of a literary icon. What's the answer for this? Keep in mind, I changed this into is. Okay? Okay, so dash makes the actress trip to the country different this year is that she used to. It makes the actress, which makes the actress, this makes the actress, what makes the actress, how makes the actress. Now, this is a classic case of just sentence structure. Okay, which most of you may not be familiar with. Is that she is your clue phrase, which is basically telling you that whatever preceding this is almost like a question. So that's why you see out of the 5 options you have 3 questions. What, which, how, right? And the remaining is the answer. So when you have a sentence structure like this, where you have this phrase, is that she is. So basically what you're saying is the preceding statement is a question and the following statement is the answer. So the question is, dash makes the actress trip to the country different this year. Why did she do that? Is the answer to raise funds for the biopic of a literary icon. So here we cannot associate her with which. She's not a thing. Right? We cannot associate how because it's not a logical fit. How makes the actress doesn't make sense. The closest one is, or the right answer is 4th. What makes the actress trip to the country different this year? Actress's trip, basically. Her trip to the country different this year was that the different thing this year is that she's raising funds for the biopic of a literary icon. So the answer is option 4. But for you to understand how the sentence structure works, some of you may find it a little challenging if you're not familiar with following context, right? So everything else as a collocation will go if you look at the second blank, right? She's looking to raise funds. That's what is different this year. So maybe this actress takes a trip to the country every year, but what is standing out this year or what is different is she's looking to raise funds. Okay? So that's what makes the sentence this particular way, right? Just for you to be aware of a structure like this in the sentence. Because if you notice, the question answer is the same statement, right? Which in itself is different. It's not the usual question. When you have a question and an answer in the statement, that's what the structure is like. Dash it out in vehicles while remaining stuck in a traffic snarl for hours has become a dash matter for commuters. So again, I want you to apply a little bit of logic here for this context. So what happens when you remain stuck in a traffic snarl for hours? So why can't it be 4 or 5? Let's go from the back. Okay, let's look at option 5. Fretting. What's the meaning of fret? Somebody who's fret means somebody who's vexed, right? Troubled. That's the meaning of fret, right? So fretting it out in vehicles while remaining stuck in a traffic snarl for hours. So we don't know for a fact that somebody is going to feel very troubled or vexed while this is happening. Has become a practice matter for commuters. This doesn't make sense. Illogical, right? I can safely eliminate option 5. Harrowing. What's the meaning of harrowing? Extremely distressing or agonizing. Right? Again, is this something that everybody goes through while stuck in a traffic for hours? Not necessarily, right? So, option 4, out. Thinking it out in vehicles. Thinking it out itself is not making sense. Become a regular matter. Waiting it out in vehicles while remaining. Again, illogical fit. And then it says everyday matter. So, logically what's happening? Sweating it out in vehicles while remaining stuck in a traffic snarl for hours has become a routine matter for commuters. So, logically, the first one is the right fit. Okay? Realistically, however, this disconnect cannot dash itself very long. Sooner rather than dash, the whole will not doubt converge. So a lot of you are coming back and saying it's option 1, right? So let's look at it. Any clue words, any strategies that we can apply? It's grouping of words, correct? So let's look at the context. Realistically, however, this disconnect cannot dash itself very long, sooner rather than later. So sooner than later is collocation, grouping of words, right? So having said this, we can eliminate 5, 4, and 3, right? And then if we look at the 2 options that are there, 1 and 2, we know that the context is in the present tense, right? The context does not say or does not give us a hint. There is no word in the context telling us it's in the past tense. So realistically, however, this disconnect cannot sustain itself very long, sooner rather than later. The whole will not doubt converge, right? So all we've done here is applied grouping of words, looked at the completeness of the action, as in the tense in the context, and then we've arrived at the right option. Okay, we're going to move forward to the next one. Digitization will dash a couple of $1 billion in pay revenues, bring more taxes, choice, and clean out black money dash cable. My options are option 1, realize from, option 2, replenish of, option 3, release from, option 4, revive with, option 5, supply with. Okay, so what are you applying here? Are there any keywords in the context which is helping you? Realize, we understand it's a simple word. We know what that means. Replenish. Replenish means, Simi asked, replenish means to nourish. Right? To fill or to make complete. Okay? Release, we understand. Revive. What's the meaning of revive? Revive means you're renewing it, you're restoring something, right? Revive means to restore, to renew. Now, in the context, what are the keywords? So let's look at the context. Digitization will dash a couple of $1 billion in pay revenues, bring more taxes, choice, and clean out black money dash cable. Right? So we need to look at what's the right word choice here. So a little bit of vocabulary. What's the right word choice? Right? And then we can also apply a little bit of grouping of words. Now, go back and look at the context. The keyword is digitization itself. We're talking about money, right? So, there is a clue word which is clean out. What does this mean? It's a phrasal verb, right? Clean out means you basically clean out something by removing unnecessary things. Here, they're trying to clean out the system or this concept of black money, right? So when you say clean out, you clean out, the right preposition to go with it is from. So this is a phrasal verb. Clean out means to get rid of. So having said that, realize the only options with from as a second blank is 1 and 3. I can go ahead and eliminate all the other options. Right? Even if I look at the first blank, we're not talking about digitization nourishing. Incorrect word choice. Replenish. We're not talking about digitization realizing anything. Right? It's the contextually, it's the wrong fit. Option 1. We're not talking about digitization renewing or restoring. We're talking about digitization releasing a couple of $1 billion in pay revenues, bring more taxes, choice, and clean out black money from cable. So the right answer option is 3. So basically, what you need to do is understand what the context, the meaning that the context is bringing, and then go back and look at certain clue words and keywords, right? So the cable operators are making a lot of black money. It's illegal, right? So they're trying to kind of get rid of that. So what they're saying is digitization will kind of ensure and bring into order certain things where the cable operators are making black money, doing something illegal, right? In order to curb that, in order to stop that. So what digitization will do is release a couple of $1 billion in pay revenues, bring more taxes, choice, and clean out the black money from cable. So that's the context here. If you understand the meaning that the context is bringing, you'll be able to arrive at the right answer option. Public sector infrastructure financing companies could dash off the ambitious smart cities, citing dash off guaranteed returns on investments. So this is an easy one. We said pay attention to the words that appear after the blank, right? Before and after the blank. So you have the preposition of and you have the preposition of here, right? So what would be the right fit? Look at option 1. It says opt for of. We know it's incorrect. Second option, opt out of. And the second blank also, lack of, makes more sense. Come back to the third one. Prefer of, incorrect. Contextually and grammatically incorrect. Excess of, incorrect. In this context, right? Select of, fourth option, incorrect. Though the second blank in option 4 is correct, lack of, but the first word does not fit. And then you say opt off, but the second blank in fifth option says cause of. You know it's incorrect. So the right option is opt out of the ambitious smart city citing lack of guaranteed returns on investments, right? So something that you need to keep in mind, opt out of and lack of. So here we've just applied grouping of words. Looks like the oil markets are not only showing dash between the physical and the financial perspectives from time to time, but also a dash between the short-term view and the long-term realities. There is a very clear structure here in the context, right? We have a parallel structure, correct? Let's look at it. Looks like the oil markets are not only showing something between the physical and the financial perspectives from time to time, but also, so there is a clear parallel structure here, which means that both the words have to have the same meaning. Now let's look at the context. If you look at the context, every option is giving me a contrast. Look at option 5. Similarity, contrast. Supply, demand. Connection, difference. Option 1, disconnect, convergence. The only option that is having both the words giving me the same meaning is disconnect and divergence, right? What's the meaning of divergence? Difference, deviation, right? There is some sort of deviation, there is some sort of disconnect, right? What is the meaning of convergence? Convergence means coming together. Merging. So every other option there is even option 3, even though it's not a contrast, it's an incorrect word choice. Right? It looks like the oil markets are not only showing connection between the physical and the financial perspectives from time to time, but also a difference between the short-term view and the long-term realities. Is not making any sense. When there is a connection, then why should there be a difference? Right? So when you pay attention to parallel structures, look at the context and see what meaning words do I need. Do I need positive words? Do I need negative words? Right? So in this context, the right answer option is 2. Looks like the oil markets are not only showing a disconnect between the physical and the financial perspectives from time to time, but also a divergence between the short-term view and the long-term realities. Okay? Top global oil exporter Saudi Arabia dashed its crude production in April to a record high. Dash its flourishing Asian market share. So I know the context is giving me a positive meaning, right? What are some of the clue words in the context telling me that? Record high. So something, it's more like an achievement. It's a record. Flourishing. It's something that is thriving. Something that's doing extremely well. Now, understand the context. So Saudi Arabia basically in April. So what is the tense in the sentence? It's past tense. They're not talking about now. They're talking about something that happened in April. So it's a past tense. What can I quickly eliminate? Option 2. Risen. It's verb 3. It's in the past participle form. I don't need a past participle form. Everything else is in past tense. Right? Now let's go back. Let's look at second blank words. Right? So I have raised in 3 and 4, then I have increased, and then I have rose in feed in option 1. So top global oil exporter Saudi Arabia dashed its crude production in April to a record high. So this is something that's an ongoing process. The Asian market share, right? So this is flourishing. Notice it is in the ing form, which means this is something that's happening. This is something that's continuing, right? So something is adding to the flourishing Asian market share. So what's the right word? Healing is an incorrect word in this context. It does not logically fit the context. And because of the action happening in the continuous form here, what's the right? Option 4. Top global oil exporter Saudi Arabia raised its crude production in April to a record high, feeding its flourishing Asian market share. So it's adding to the Asian market share, which is already doing extremely well. Right? So look at the context, understand what the context is saying. Look at the tense. These are certain things that you quickly need to pay attention to so you can eliminate wrong answer choices, right? Lead its. Doesn't make sense. If it's leading to, again, ideally, it goes with the preposition to lead. But nevertheless, if we say the first blank is correct, the second blank is incorrect in option 3. And feed is not in the right form, which is an ing form. Likewise, lead as well. So the right answer option is option 4. When you want to digitalize a city dash with millions, you don't bet dash the odds. Okay, my options are option 1, proceeding into, option 2, teaming against, option 3, undergoing a dare, option 4, dangling for, option 5, falling above. So we'll also have to apply, sometimes it's just pure logic, just apply basic understanding of the context. That's another strategy, right? When you want to digitalize a city dash with millions. So ideally, we're looking at the word that will go with, right? Proceeding with, yes, but is proceeding the right word in the context? When you want to digitalize a city, proceeding with millions, teaming with millions, undergoing with millions, dangling with millions, falling with millions. By just reading the options, I know 2 sounds right? Teaming. Again, if you don't know the meaning of these words, that can also be a challenge, right? Teaming means to be full of. Teeming with something, right? To be full of something. So how do I know my clue word is millions? We're talking about a huge number, a vast number, right? And millions is my clue word for that. So teeming. If you don't know that word, then you're going to have a problem. You don't bet against the odds is another expression. Against the odds. Against all odds. In fact, is an idiom. Let me put the exact expression. Against all odds means it's an idiom, right? Which means in spite of something that seems very unlikely. That's the meaning of against all odds. Right? There's no place here, but I'm just saying against all odds means in spite of seeming very unlikely. So in this context, when you want to digitalize a city teeming with millions, you don't bet against the odds. Yeah? So by all we've done here is we focused on the keyword and the context, millions. We've applied strategy 3, right? We've also applied a little bit of 1 because grouping of words against the odds, teaming with millions, teaming with whatever, a large number, right? That's again grouping of words. So the idea is more or less you will apply 1 or more of these strategies in one context. Dangling, when something is dangling means it's hanging. It's dangling back and forth. Like usually, they say if you dangle a carrot in front of a donkey, which means when you dangle something, you're making it stand in front and you're moving it side to side. So it's dangling, right? That's an expression again. Dangling a carrot in front of a donkey, or it could be anything. When you see people trying to hypnotize you, right? They have one chain and there'll be a locket, and they just sway it in front of your eyes from one end to the other, right? So that particular thing is hanging loosely. The numbers dashed by the legitimate online music service providers indicate that a growing number of users are dashed to buy music. The numbers dashed by the legitimate online music service providers indicate that a growing number of users are dashed to buy music. What are the options? I have morphed, ignoring. I have labeled, thriving. I have figured, fanatic, painted, interested, touted, willing. Just like in the first blank, right? If you didn't know the meaning of the word teaming, and if you're not familiar with the expression, then you could go wrong. Likewise, so we're talking about online music service providers. They are legitimate. They are indicating that a growing number of users are dashed to buy music. So it seems like a positive phrase, right? Thrive means flourish, right? Couple of words that you may not know the meaning of. Touted. Touted means was either to publicize or promote, right? So another clue word for you is indicate, which means they have done some sort of a survey, right? Some sort of a standard evaluation they have taken. That's how they know. They are able to give you some sort of information or share some sort of data. So if that is the case, who's doing this? The online music service providers, right? So they are displaying or they are showing some numbers, like statistical figures. They're saying, boss, these are the number of people and they are very interested in buying music. So the numbers morphed by, you can safely eliminate option 1, right? To morph means, like usually this word you will associate it with, how people morph images one after the other. So they take especially this happens in Hollywood and Bollywood, right? You have the actors and actresses, the different body, but they morph someone else's, like it'll be, Kareena Kapoor's face and someone else's body, morphing images, right? Changing images, right? Like Namrata said, right? Is that an appropriate word in this context? No. The numbers labeled by the legitimate online music service providers, thrive again here means to flourish. It's not an appropriate word in this context. I can safely eliminate option 2. Option 3, the numbers figured by the legitimate doesn't make sense. Logically or contextually, it's not the right word to fit in this, right? 3, out. The numbers painted by the legitimate online music service providers. Do we need, remember when it comes to fill in the blanks, we are always looking at the most appropriate word, right? The most logical word to complete the meaning of that sentence. So, the numbers painted by the legitimate online music service providers indicate that a growing number of users are interested to buy music, or the numbers touted by the legitimate online music providers indicate that a growing number of users are willing to buy music. So a couple of things here in terms of me inclining or leaning towards a particular option, right? Quickly. So we're saying painted or touted. What is touted means we just saw, right? Publicize, to make known, to promote. So we know that because they have conducted some sort of a survey or some sort of an evaluation process where they're able to provide these particular numbers. So they are publicizing that. They're making it known. These are the numbers. So touted seems a more appropriate option, and Even if you look at the second blank, willing to buy, grouping of words, right? I would usually associate or link which preposition with interested. Can somebody tell me? Apart from to, which is the more common preposition that I will connect to interested? You are interested in something, right? The more appropriate or the more closer in terms of collocation or grouping of words would be in. That's one thing for you to notice, right? So you can quickly sideline option 4 and you can safely choose option 5 because of the more because it's the most closest or the most appropriate one in the context. Yeah, you are interested in something. Yes. So answer is 5. The numbers promoted or publicized or made known by this legitimate online music service provider indicate that a growing number of users are willing to buy music. So there is no need for you to get sidelined. Even if there are two options that are very close to each other, always fall back on the context and see which is the most appropriate one. If India is dashed on protecting its resources, international business appears equally dashed to safeguard its profit. Now, in this context, there are quite a few clue phrases, and there is also a very, very clear hint word. So, I want you to quickly identify those before you choose your option. Don't be hasty in choosing the option. Identify the phrases first. You can apply grouping of words also for this, but let me quickly highlight. So, protect the resources, safeguard the profit, right? Looking at all of this, obviously I know that I need positive words, right? So, what are all the negative words? I see a lot of negative words. Dreaded, fragile, stubborn, weak. I will quickly eliminate option 1 and 2. I don't need those negative words. Right? And then I have bent, determined, I have approaching, settled, I have observed, prepared. So, couple of things. I know that I need, both these blanks need words of the same meaning, right? I need synonyms. Why? Because paying attention to my clue phrases, protecting resources, safeguarding profit, I need synonyms and I need, these are positive words. Right? So, obviously, when I apply grouping of words, paying attention to the prepositions on and to, which is the most likely option? Option 3. Bent on doing something. Determined to do something. Right? So, these two are verb plus preposition collocations. Right? We have a separate video on collocations, and it is good for you to have an idea or be aware of this, right? So not only for fill in the blanks, even for closed passage, collocations will be very, very helpful. Yeah, are you following? So basically what we've done here is we've applied strategy 1, grouping of words. We've also looked at the meaning that the context is giving, paying attention to clue words. And how do I know I need both words of the same meaning? Hint word equally. If India is bent on protecting its resources, international business appears equally determined to safeguard its profit, right? Brands dash simple strategies make full use of available information to dash consumers' path of decision making and direct them to the best market offers. Option 1, diluting, diverge. Option 2, tempting, maintain. Option 3, imputing, overdrive. Option 4, pursuing, assess. Option 5, employing, trust. So forget the options, right? If you were to substitute your own words in this context, what would it be? Brands dash simple strategies make full use of available information. So I would say brands that let's see, brands that probably use simple strategies, brands that employ simple strategies, right? Brands that are working on or are engaged or conduct. So these are all, I'm going to come up with my own words for these blanks, right? So I'm saying brands that either conduct simple strategies, or brands that are working on simple strategies, brands that perform simple strategies, right? Brands that are engaged in simple strategies. This is for the first blank. My own words. Second blank. Make full use of available resources to dash consumers' path of decision making and direct them to the best market offers. So basically, they want to understand the consumer's mindset so they can guide them appropriately, right? This is what I think will be best suitable for you based on your consumption. So what are they doing here then? How do they figure out what the consumer's mindset is? They have to do some sort of analysis, right? So second blank. So some sort of analysis should happen, or some sort of evaluation should happen for it to, yeah? They need to judge the customer's mindset. So I have my own words because I understood the meaning that this context is giving. So brands that conduct, brands that work on simple strategies, brands that employ simple strategies, use simple strategies, blah, blah, blah. Or estimate, yeah, that's also a good word, right? Now I'm going to look at my options and see which of the words are very closely associated to the words that I have come up with, right? This is a substitution method. So brands, when I say conduct, working on, perform, engage, let's look at our first blank options. Diluting, tempting, imputing, pursuing, employing. Which is the option that gives me that? Pursuing. Pursuing means you're doing that, right? Performing, conducting, you're engaged in it, you're working on it. Second blank. Analysis, evaluate, estimate. Which one gives me that? Is it diverge, maintain, overdrive, assess, or trust? Assess. So brands pursuing simple strategies make full use of available information to assess consumers' path of decision making and direct them to the best market offers. Option 4. Right? So this is again another method that you can use. Right? Understand the context, come up with your own words, look at the options and choose the word that closely is aligned or is synonym to the words that you have come up with. But for that, you need to understand the context first, right? It has to be very, very clear. Lack of financing options, dash with HR and technological dash, makes small and medium enterprises sectors the most vulnerable component of our economy. So again, looking at clue words in the context, I have a lack. I'm talking about vulnerable component of our economy. I don't need positive words, I need negative words, right? So do I see some positive words? Yes. Strengthened, benefits. I can eliminate those options quickly, right? I don't need positive words because I have the context is giving me a negative meaning, right? Loophole, yes, negative. Challenges, yes, negative. Again, registered strategies, it's kind of neutral, neither here nor there, right? I have to choose between 1 and 2. Lack of financing options except with HR and technological loophole. Does that make sense? Or lack of financing options coupled with HR and technological challenges make small and medium enterprises sectors the most vulnerable component of our economy. So why is it the most vulnerable component? Because of the challenges, right? Coupled with means along with, right? Coupled with, again, grouping of words. Right? So what have we done? We have just looked at clue words in the context, figured out if it's giving us a positive or negative meaning, eliminate the wrong answer choices, which is giving me positive words, and then I arrive at the answer option. So answer is 2. Coupled with HR and technological challenges, blah, blah, blah. Right? So Fill in the blanks. 4 things, 4 steps you need to remember. 1. Look for words around the blank, right after the blank. Mostly it will be prepositions. Grouping of words. You will apply grouping of words immediately, right? For that, it's good for you to know as many collocations as possible. 1. 2. I will look for negative or positive meaning in the context. I will need to focus on keywords for that. 3. I will look for clue words, right? In this context, lack, vulnerable. These are clue words. I will also look for hint words, right? Previous question we saw equally, telling you that you needed both the words synonyms. Because strategies and registered are not giving you the meaning for the most, why is it the most vulnerable component? What sort of strategies? There's not enough information, no? In 4th one, see, lack of financing options is just one factor. HR and technological challenges is additional. So I need a word not registered, but I need a word, this is one, along with this. Right? That's why option 2 is right and option 4 is incorrect. Yeah, the last one we said is, again, we just need to figure out logically the meaning that the context is giving. You can either use substitution method, come up with your own words, and make sure you're able to arrive at the right answer choice.